I know there's a few things on the agenda that I can provide additional insight into it beyond Jay. I'm
Okay.
here.
Which ones?
We got Matunic and Curtis Road.
Okay. Curtis Corner.
Curtis Corner Road.
That's my road, man. I'm fairly protective of it.
You own the whole thing, David? You plow it too?
Well, actually, I pick up trash on a mile of the 1.5 mile section between South Road and Ministerial.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's a gorgeous stretch.
Yeah.
Oh,
I used to, when we lived in North Kingstown, I would bicycle all over the state, and I would come down Ministerial Road and say, man, this is where I want to live. And just happened, circumstance led to another, and we did it. Jay, is everybody present?
He's giving you the 1 minute signal.
Hey, Chris, good to see you. Chris, do you prefer Chris or Christopher?
Chris is fine.
Okay. I think we're waiting for Jay now.
Yeah, I got Bill
Dan
Wallace
just came in.
and I am just checking the attendees list.
Yep. So you give me the say when.
So we have 6. Looks like we're missing Lorraine.
Huh. Damn. Well, it's 6:02. I'm prepared to start if everybody else is.
Sounds good.
Go
Go.
for it.
Hey, Ann. Good to see
Hi.
you. Hi.
Hi.
I'm calling to order the January 5th meeting of the South Kingstown 2021 meeting of the South Kingstown Conservation Commission. First order of business is roll call. We'll do it by polling. Mary Talbot Rabiano.
Here.
Vern Wyman.
here.
Matthew Bradywood.
Here.
Ann Heffron.
Here.
Christopher Connor.
Here.
And not present at this time is
No,
Lorraine Jubert.
Lorraine's here.
No, here.
Lorraine's here.
Hey, good, Lorraine. Thank you. Okay. Lorraine Jubert is present. I am David Flanders, and we're joined by our staff person, principal planner, Jay Parker, and our head planner, director of planning, Jamie Rabbit. Second order of business is the approval of minutes of the November 3rd meeting. Did anybody have any changes they wanted to make, any corrections or additions? Okay, not hearing any. I'll accept a motion to accept the November 3rd minutes.
A motion to accept the November minutes as presented.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, the motion passes for the November 3rd minutes. We're now going to go to the minutes for the December 1st meeting. Does anybody have any questions, additions, or anything else? Okay, I'll accept the motion to accept the December 1st, 2020 minutes at any time.
I'll motion to accept the minutes.
Accepted by, moved by Mary Talbot Rabiano.
Second.
Second by Chris O'Connor. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, the motion passes. We accept the December 1st minutes. Our first order of business is a notice of tree removal on Torrey Road. We have 5 Norway maples that are slated for takedown. I just wanted to give a quick background on the Norway maple situation. After the Dutch elm disease ravaged every municipality's American elm population. They all were in search of a substitute. And at the time, the non-indigenous Norway maple was proposed. It was a fast-growing shade tree, large shade tree, hardwood as well. At that time, and this is back in the 1950s, we did not know that they did not age well. And what we find not only all over in South Kingstown, but in all other municipalities, they start to rot from the inside and they start to drop limbs and decay rapidly once they get to a particular age. And that's what we saw here on Torrey Road. The pictures, the photographs that we were given in our packet, I was there a couple of times. They are extremely accurate. These trees are now in the hazardous category. They're hazardous to pedestrians, hazardous to vehicles, of course, and in this case, hazardous to power lines. So I'm advocating that they be taken down. But when I was up there, what I did not see, and maybe Bill Wallace can help us with this, I did not see any official posting on the tree. And what that is an 8.5 by 11 form that the Department of Public Services has, put in plastic and tacked to each tree so that someone driving by can read it. And what it says is, if you have any objections to this takedown of this tree, that you can request a public hearing where it will be discussed and then voted on. This is Rhode Island general law. It's also in our tree ordinance. So I did not see that. And Jay, is Bill with us right now? Because I would like to ask Bill if they were ever posted, was the posting taken down? All I saw on the trees was a red slash of paint indicating to my eye that it was slated for removal. But I still need to know if there was an official posting of the tree. Jay? Hey, Matt.
One I might add, so I've got a tree on the corner of my property that is in a similar situation. It's got the red slash on it. They posted a notice. It wasn't laminated or in plastic of any kind.
Okay.
And so, at least in my case, that sheet of paper got wet and fell off in the first or second rainstorm. So that may have, if it's got the red mark on it, it may also have had that notice, and it's just didn't fare very well in the weather. But
for us to proceed, I just need to know if it was officially posted, because if not, if it was just with the red paint indication, then it's going to have to be posted, and it's going to invite people to have a hearing like we're doing tonight. We may have to go through this again. And that's why I'm asking Jay. Jay was going to try to, Bill Wallace doesn't have a computer. And so he was going to be inviting Bill into the planning department to use their computer, or he's now trying to get him on the telephone or speakerphone so that we might be able to ask him to verify that. And I need that verification before we can go on here. Jay, you there?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
I think I inadvertently switched my microphone off. I have Mr. Wallace on speakerphone on my cell phone. Bill, could you say a few things just to confirm that the commission can hear you?
Yeah. No, they were posted, but it didn't last very long. We had rains in between or something. But the posting is what generated the complaints or just concerns that the folks are having, or reason we're having the hearing tonight.
Okay.
Can members of the commission hear him okay?
Yes. So they were officially posted, so we can proceed from then on. Bill, I was out to look at the trees, and there's no question that they should have been taken down before today. So if anybody, and based on the photos, I can verify their accuracy as to the condition of the trees. Jay, what is required of us at this point to provide an advisory opinion to the tree warden?
I believe so. This is the first item of this type that I've had to deal with, but I believe that you are providing the tree warden with your opinion as to the status of those trees, and in fact, if his opinion is correct.
Is the public allowed to address the issue if someone
Yes.
complained?
And Jay, are the people who wrote that letter, whose name I couldn't make out in handwriting, are they present tonight?
So I contacted Mr. Fetzer, who submitted
Right.
the letter. I attempted to contact the objector that we received, but
Yep.
they did not answer the phone and the voicemail was full.
Okay.
I could not leave a message. We do have a number of attendees in the audience this evening. If anyone would like to speak on this matter, please raise your hand and I'll allow you to speak. You can find the button at the bottom of the screen. It's a little hand that says raise hand. Mr. Chairman, I don't see anyone raising their hand to speak on this matter.
Okay. I would like to formally draft an opinion that the tree board, Conservation Commission, acting as the tree board, endorses the removal of these trees as they are in a hazardous condition. Does everyone agree with that wording or want to add or change anything?
Could you just clarify how many trees there are?
Yes, there are 5 trees. Mr. Fetzer's prop.
There's six trees.
Okay, I had thought 6 as well, Bill, and I was up there today. I made a special trip and I only found 5 with red splashes, 3 in front of Mr. Fetzer's property and 2 east of that.
There's an email.
I was there today too, and I counted 6.
Okay, okay. Well,
and actually, we took one down, not of this group, but one before with the damage to property.
Yep.
I don't have the number in front of me, but it's the
Yep.
front tree. You'll see that stump there.
Okay, I did see a stump.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if let's take a vote for the commission. If we endorse the takedown of these trees, do I hear a motion to that effect?
Yes, I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you, Vern Wyman. Who's going to second?
I'll
I'll
second.
second.
Okay, Mary and Ann both seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, the motion passes. We endorse the taking down of the trees. Bill, thank you for coming in.
Well, thank you for the patience you've shown and also putting up with this type of.
Yeah, we've been doing it for a while.
It's a different world.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just for clarity,
By the way, as you folks probably know, the Norway maples have been declared an invasive species.
Yeah.
We as a replanting problem, that we can't plant Norway maples again. So
Yep.
The poor things just don't get along too well. As they go, they're about 100 to 125 years old.
Yep.
Anyhow, thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jamie, yes?
Just for clarity, I heard a first, a second, a call for discussion, but I didn't hear an actual vote.
You're
I'm
correct.
sorry. Let's take that actual vote now.
Thank you.
All those in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye.
Any objections? The vote passes.
Thank you, Mr. Flanders.
Thank you, Jamie. Appreciate it.
Add something, please.
Sure, Bill.
A number of years ago, the town council expressed the fact they wanted no net loss on trees. Now, when the budget allows for it, when we take one down, we try to replace it. Not necessarily in the same place. A lot of times it'll end up in the park or something. But as money in the garden clubs and other sources give us money, we replant. So we'll replant 6 trees somewhere in the town over time when the money is available.
Well, Bill, I had a thought along those lines. And what would you think about planting 5 or 6 trees on the other side of Torrey Road where there aren't any utility lines, but also in the town right of way? What do you think?
It would honestly, I looked it up today to see what the honest width of the road is.
Yep.
The thing says varies, Torrey Road, and it's like many of our old roads.
Right, right.
We'll get the engineers and look and see what kind of space we have. But, we might be able to, try to be different species and
Exactly.
much smaller crowns and things like that.
Well, I think that we can also, I know the person who initiated the request, Bob Fetzer, he was a client of mine. And I think we can also, I've got some money left over from Act for SK, and the Conservation Commission has some money, and maybe Mr. Fetzer can contribute some money. And I think we can come up with 6 trees to plant along that stretch.
Okay. All right, I'll see what we can do about getting permission and things like that.
Yep, I'll be talking with you. Thank you.
Okey doke. You guys once again. Guys and gals, I would assume.
Yep. Yep. Okay, thanks, Bill. Good night. Our next order of business is advisory opinion to the zoning board for the Daulat Shahi application special use permit for the location of an on-site wastewater treatment system within 150 feet of a wetland on Bow and Arrow Trail North, 34-2, lot 33. Is there anyone here representing the applicants?
Yeah, one moment, Mr. Chairman. I'm bringing Mr. John Kenyon in.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. I'm John Kenyon. I'm the attorney for the applicant. Hope you're all doing well tonight.
And same to you, John.
The applicant's property is located on Bow and Arrow Trail North. It's designated as tax assessors plat 34-2, lot 33. The property is 6,050 square feet in size, and it's in the R20 zoning district. The applicant's proposing a 2-bedroom, single-family residence with a 896 square foot footprint. The proposed house meets all the setback requirements and no dimensional relief is required. The house will be serviced by proposed OWTS that has been approved by RIDM. There are no wetlands on the property, but there are some located to the northwest of the lot. The wetlands have been flagged by NRS, and the proposed OWTS will be located to the rear of the property, which is approximately 115 feet from the wetland edge. We're here tonight for recommendation under section 504.1 of the zoning ordinance, as the OWTS is within 150 feet of the wetland, requires a special use permit. The proposal meets all the requirements under section 504, including the lot coverage requirement of 15%. And also the drainage has been designed for the 25-year storm. Patrick Freeman from American Engineering is here tonight. He prepared the plans. I'm going to have him go over the existing conditions and the proposed OWTS.
Thank you, John.
Mr. Freeman is just coming in. Mr. Freeman, you are muted. If you could unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. My name is Patrick Freeman. I'm with American Engineering. John covered most of the points, but I'll go into some of the existing characteristics of the lot. It's been mowed, so it's grass mostly with scattered trees. Proposed, we have a 2-bedroom dwelling. The rain garden, like John said, has been designed for the 25-year storm, that increase in volume. The septic system is an advanced treatment Septitech M400 discharging to a BSF. We proposed that BSF in the rear of the lot to maintain as much separation to the wetland edge as possible. The only thing that kept us from the 10-foot offset to the property line was a proposed rain garden on the lot behind us. It's Assessor's Plat 34-2 Lot 8. So that's that BSF is 115 feet from the wetlands. You would have only gained a foot, but you would have needed a variance from DEM for that setback. We're proposing a new water stop as well to connect to the water main in Bow and Arrow Trail North. We did this to prevent any impact to the 50-foot wetland buffer. As well as we're proposing a utility pole to prevent any encroachment onto the lot to our south. In addition, we're also proposing a row of trees to provide a buffer for that perimeter wetland. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Patrick.
Sure.
Yeah, sorry.
If I could just, for clarification, on the plan, the area with what looks to be wetland plants, that is actually the wetland buffer, correct? The wetland flagging is further.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. The wetland flags are at the top left corner of that view. The 50-foot perimeter is encroaching on the lot. The wetlands are not actually located on the lot.
And the row of trees you discussed, those are at the 50-foot,
That is correct.
right?
Yeah.
On the plans, there was reference to building plans, i.e. like a third sheet. We didn't get that.
I don't believe there are any building plans. I could be wrong. I don't have any.
Okay, but there was a reference made to the downspout cartoon that we have going to the collector line. It says downspout parentheses see building plans.
That's correct. We don't have building plans yet. When we do have building plans, those would be shown on that plan where we don't have the roof lines for the structure yet.
Yeah, because my questions are actually relating to those plans. One is that I got a call from the southern lot abutter who says that there is water flow from this lot onto her property. So I wanted to know what the driveway would actually look like. A, is it going to be pervious? B, is it going to be graded away from that southern lot? I also wanted to see on the plans we have to the east of the dwelling itself, we have A through E keyed items of the septic system. And I don't have any reference to that key
Sure.
that we can see. So, and also I would like to see, more detailed drawings of the septic system for us to take a look at. I also want to see where the water table is, and I want to look at your ideas for what is going to be either a slab or a crawl space. And I want to see how the downspouts are going to be routed to the rain garden.
Jay, do I have the ability to point with the cursor? Can you see my cursor?
Yeah, well, wait 1 second. Let me.
Sure.
Try now. There you go.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So I'm going to try to remember all of the points that you covered. But as you can see, we did a topography of the lot, starting at 112 in this corner and 104 in this corner. All of these contours are running in a direction that the water would be flowing away from the abutter to the south. So all of this would flow in this direction. We proposed to run it's with our grading, this water, anything that lands here will either go down this swale along the edge of the driveway, but with these contour lines in this direction and it flowing this way, it's going to pull water away from that lot. So that's the grading scheme to prevent water flowing onto a butter's lots. Same with this side. So water would go this direction into the rain garden and off the lot. All this water would go down here into the rain garden, then overflow where or a level spreader.
So from the downspout, for instance, from the southeast downspout, what does it look like? What's the schematic for getting that water to the rain garden?
So there's an underground pipe that runs from this roof leader to this roof leader, over to this roof leader, and then out to an outfall with a crushed stone pad. This corner would do the same thing. It would go down to an underground pipe, which would connect to this, and then out to a crushed stone pad in the rain garden.
Now, related to the driveway, the abutter who called me and addressed me with certain issues, she planted a row of trees along that southern line. I guess, I don't know if they're arborvitae or what, but I would want to stipulate that in our recommendation that when any tree roots are encountered, whether making the driveway, and that's why I wanted to see, the plans for the driveway, how deep are you planning to bed the driveway, but whether for the driveway or the dwelling itself, if any tree roots are encountered, we're going to need to have an arborist come in, a licensed arborist, and make clean pruning cuts of those roots. Because if they're left jagged and then covered in, they're going to be susceptible to infestation and infection. That's why I was curious about the driveway being right up against the property line.
Sure, that driveway is going to be 6 to 9 inches deep. I should be able to get.
Well, no, that's okay. That gives me enough information. I'm just saying at that level, you may very well encounter some of those tree roots, and if they were just left, dug from the excavator and left ragged, it would be injurious to the trees. But you can easily have an arborist come in and make clean cuts, and the trees will be just fine. So that was my concern.
Okay.
Alternatively, I wonder if you could reduce the width of the driveway.
Or move it, in fact, further north.
The problem with moving it north, we were trying to avoid any impact to the 50-foot wetland perimeter, as well as providing the area for that rain garden. That rain garden is quite large, being a 25-year storm. That's a lot of stormwater that we have to capture. I don't believe the driveway is too terribly wide. I believe it's 10 to 12 feet. Let me get a number on that. Yeah, it's a 10-foot wide driveway, so it's already fairly narrow.
But for the rain garden, you're only required to capture the difference between the 25-year storm with the 25-year storm from current conditions to proposed.
That's correct. I missed.
Not that much.
It's it is that rain garden isn't too terribly over designed. Let me.
Yeah, it's shallow. It's less than four inches.
I'm sorry.
It's pretty shallow. It's less than 4 inches deep.
It should be 8 inches deep.
Really?
Yep.
I may be looking at runoff depth.
Yeah,
But
runoff.
the existing runoff depth is 3.6, and the proposed, or the existing is 3.08, and the proposed is 3.57. That's not very much difference.
So the number in the narrative that you want to look at is actually the volume. On that top row, it shows runoff equals the cubic feet per second. Then the volume for the existing is 1,553 cubic feet.
Yeah, I got that. I got the volume.
So what we did is
So
we
it's
stored the
between
difference in
18
volume.
and 15. So what is the number of inches you're capturing?
So we're capturing the difference in the runoff volume from the existing and the proposed condition. So it's in cubic
Right.
feet.
I know, but usually if
1801.
you were designing to capture an inch, you would then convert it to the volume, and now it's just vice versa. Because the DEM residential standards are pretty much based on 1 inch of depth, right?
That is correct. The town standards are based on the difference in the volume of runoff. So over the course of that 24-hour storm, the existing conditions, you have 1,553 cubic feet that run off. During the proposed, with the impervious roof and the grass, you get 1,800. So we store the difference of those two storms in that rain garden.
And the difference is less than an inch, according to your report.
Not the runoff depth, but the volume of runoff. So the runoff depth, when it flows off the lot, is a certain depth, but that translates to a lot more water when you multiply it by the whole lot. Basically,
So do you know what it is in inches, so we can compare it to the DEM standard?
The DEM standard is based on the impervious area and 1 inch of
Right.
rain that lands on those areas. So, the town standard is based off of different parameters.
Right. Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Thank you.
I had another question, though. It looks like you are meeting all the standards of Section 504 based on my review. But I did note that there's a letter from DEM approving the project. And it indicates that the wetland edge was not verified by staff, by DEM staff. Can you verify that it was verified?
So what we had was we had Scott or Ed from NRS. They came out and they flagged those wetlands. They made an opinion on what the wetlands are during during the wetlands review process. They confirmed. Well, DEM came out and agreed with that. They didn't do an official wetlands edge determination, but they did come out and they did look at that. And they didn't say that they needed it. They approved it.
Do they typically do that verbally or in writing?
That's pretty standard language for a preliminary determination application. It's basically, I believe, remove liability from them. I don't know that means that they disagree with it.
In the future, it'd be much clearer to simply get the wetland edge verification, so we know we're dealing with the exact boundary, if that's possible.
I had one other question on the plans, to the lot to the west, to the east, excuse me. It says proposed rain garden. Who is proposing that?
I don't have the information in front of me, but on the outs application for that lot, they proposed a rain garden in that location. So we had to maintain a setback from that pond that they're going to put in when they install the outs for that lot.
Right.
I could find that information for you.
No, I was curious if it played into your plans, if it was, pertinent to what you're doing here.
So that 15-foot dimension, we needed that 15-foot minimum setback. So that's the reason it was
Okay.
relevant to what we were doing. Yeah.
Patrick, was that Brian Lynn's property?
Brian Lynn's is actually to the west, across Bow and Arrow.
Patrick, is it also possible, in addition to the shrubs at the top of the rain garden, that in order to prevent future landowners from encroaching on the wetland perimeter, that some type of fencing be installed as well with a sign?
I'm sure that, yeah, that we could do that. Could I offer instead maybe 4x4 wooden post marking that? That's something we've done in the past, just to mark that edge if somehow the trees die or get removed by, those posts would mark that edge. It obviously would be up to Gashi. If he wanted to put a fence up, he could, if that's what you want.
I think the posts are sufficient if they're very clear and there's also a sign with it.
Okay.
But maybe the other members have a comment on
that. One comment I didn't see any test pipe locations. What sort of statistics did you get from the pipes? Where are we with the water table? That's something else I would like to see.
Sure. Test hole 1, do I still have, the cursor? The test hole 1's right here. That's the symbol that we use for the test holes. Test hole 2 is in that location. If you scroll down, we have the test hole and percolation data is just below the scale. So test hole 1, we got a seasonal high water table at 19 inches. Test hole 2 was a seasonal high water table at 18 inches.
Okay. And are you planning on having the driveway be pervious? And if so,
sorry.
Okay. Yep. Does anyone have any further questions of the applicant?
Just one other question about the erosion sediment control plan. According to the current stormwater erosion control manual, and as well as the DEM stormwater standards, the infiltration areas such as the BSF and rain garden should be protected from construction. Does your erosion control plan specify protecting those areas by fencing before construction begins?
I'd have to read the notes to double check and make sure that it does. We do specify that they shouldn't be driven on during construction. We don't typically fence them off, but we could if you want. We can mark it with beanies or something to that effect to let people know that they shouldn't drive on that area.
I think it's important. Otherwise, contractors that don't know what's going there could easily just drive right over it. That's a good idea.
Okay.
Thank you.
One thing that I learned from the abutter was that the actual road, Bow and Arrow Trail North, is in pretty poor condition, and also that nobody is claiming ownership of the road. The town does not claim ownership. The association apparently did a title search by a professional person who does that. And nobody can find out who owns this road. which is essentially their problem. But what I would like to stipulate is that with heavy equipment coming in, such as concrete trucks, lumber trucks, that the road be restored after construction is completed. Does that sound reasonable to you?
Dave, I don't think they'd have a problem with restoring if any damage is created by their construction vehicles. I don't know that the applicant wants to take on the responsibility if they do nothing wrong to bring it up to town standards or anything like that.
Well, not really town standards. I mean, as I said, I have not been out there to see what it's like, but certainly these heavy trucks are going to create some pretty deep ruts, and I would just like them, to be addressed at the end of the deal.
Yeah.
Good.
I don't think that would be a problem.
Good. Okay.
Fixing any damage that's done to the road.
Good. Okay.
Patrick, I've got one question. How close to the 50-foot wetland perimeter is the BSF, or the closest corner of the BSF?
To the wetland or the perimeter?
To the perimeter, to the
perimeter.
line that's actually on the applicant's property.
Sure. 1 second. I have the info. It's 115 feet from the BSF to the wetland edge. I would assume that it's 50 feet less, but let me, 65 feet.
65?
Correct.
And that's from the northwest corner of the BSF?
That is correct, to the perpendicular to that 50-foot offset.
Okay. Thanks.
Does anybody else have any further questions of the applicant? This is a advisory opinion to the zoning board. I would like a motion to include some of our concerns.
Mr. Chairman,
Pardon me?
just to advise the commission, there was a hand raised a moment ago, but apparently you may want to ask if anyone out there would like to.
Sure.
Regard to this matter. Oh, there we go. Hold on.
Thank you. And does anybody in the public have any questions or concerns they'd like to express?
Sure. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay.
Good.
John and Jane Bissett, we're the abutters. And a few things we'd like to address or mention. If you look at the plan that's up here now, if you look on our lot 32 where the existing water stop line is.
Yep.
When we built, that was the 50-foot wetland perimeter. We were not allowed to improve the trail to the end of our lot. We had to stop right there. Things have changed. The wetland has shrunk, and apparently, and so, but this right here where it says gravel, Bow and Arrow Trail, North gravel, the gravel stops where our water stop is, and from there it's dirt. It floods regularly from runoff from the top. It's quite an incline. If there's any snow or ice on the trail, you could be spinning your tires trying to get out, as quite a few delivery trucks have found. We get runoff from Indian Head Trail, plus when rain, of course, hits Bow and Arrow Trail. There's a lot of water collection, and it levels off right about where the water stop is. So going forward towards lot 33, I would say that's impassable about a good 6 months out of the year. And we've had to get 2 cars out of there. Well, a car and a truck just in the last 6 months that one of them was actually the guy who was doing the surveying. He had a 4-wheel drive truck, and he parked right about where that proposed driveway is. And we told him to watch out, and he said no problem. And 20 minutes later, he was calling for a tow truck. So it gets pretty bad right there. I did give a couple of pictures of Bow and Arrow Trail flooding. I don't know if we need to look at them, but you can see there's quite a train of water coming down. And it also runs off the lot, so it gets very wet all the way up in front of lot 33. So that's that. As far as the construction entrance, someone said 10 feet, but there's a marker. If you look at the far end of the proposed foundation, and there's a thing there, it says 12 foot, and that looks to be the same width as the proposed construction entrance. And it is right up along our property line, and we do have mature plantings there. We've been here about 12 years, and we planted as soon as we came in, you know, to help with the runoff, and also for privacy. Where that little square is, it says proposed driveway crushed stone.
Mhm.
Right about in the middle of that, there's a large, I believe it's an oak tree, I should know, but I forget, that straddles the property line. And when we were building, as a matter of fact, the owner of lot 33 objected to us cutting that tree. The builder had wanted to get rid of it to improve our drainage. But this tree stands there, and you know, I'm happy these days to listen to the leaves in the summertime, and I'd like to see that tree stay. But that's going to create a problem with trying to move the driveway up that far, I think, especially if it's right on the lot line. The other plantings that are in front of that are abrevieties and some bamboo, things like that. We also have plantings alongside further up, right about where the let's see, the eastern corner of the foundation, proposed foundation, all the way up to where it says vinyl fence. There's a couple sections of vinyl fence about 8 feet long. The rest are all plantings. We did read that they had to excavate around the proposed BSF to a distance of, I believe it was 10 feet. To remove any roots. And as you can see, it's 11 foot from the property line, so that could impact our plantings over there also. Let me see. So.
Excuse me, who
Sure.
recommended clearing around the BSF?
Where did we read that? I think it was in the documentation that we have for this project.
Proposal for the septic design.
Yeah.
Not sure that's standard practice.
If I can clarify that point, that's, you just can't have any trees within 10 feet. They don't actually dig a 10-foot trench around the entire perimeter of it. It's just a setback from trees that you need to meet.
Okay, so you won't be clearing roots then and things.
Correct.
Let me see. Let's see.
What, I have a question.
Go ahead.
What is the water table where the proposed rain garden is? Has that been determined?
It's likely similar to the test holes at the rear of the lot. We didn't do a test hole in.
Well, there's a drop in elevation from the rear of the lot to the front, and the front of the lot is much closer to the wetlands.
We had a test hole in the front of our lot, and it was like 12 inches.
We also we raised that rain garden. So if the grading, we raised the front end of that to get it up off of the water table. So we did account for.
Okay. And there's a berm to be constructed around
the BSF?
Yeah, it's a berm is, it's only a 2-foot section where basically once that pond fills up, it flows over that 2-foot area. Just it level spreads the water so it doesn't create any erosion points.
Okay. Just seeing a couple other points we might have to mention here. I don't want to take up too much of your time. Soil erosion runoff and sedimentation control plan. Does that include addressing the existing gravel road or not?
The way we show it, we show our proposed crushed stone driveway connecting to what we have as the end of the gravel road.
Yeah,
We do have soil erosion control around that downhill slope, if that's what you're referring to.
yeah. And there's something about traffic control. I'm not quite sure what that refers to, but it makes me think of where will all the workers and equipment be parked when this project is going on? Because we installed a gravel road, like I told you, down to the existing water stop for our lot. It's about 10 or 12 feet wide, I forget which. And it's the only egress we have. I know, I mean, it's going to be pretty loud when this thing's going up, no doubt, but I'm just wondering where all the equipment's going to end up for this project.
I would imagine most of it would be along that southerly property line, and obviously you wouldn't be able to block your access to your dwelling. That wouldn't be okay. But that's where I would imagine most of it would go, along that southerly property line.
Yeah. Speaking of the trail again, I would mention that the existing water stop that you can't use, it's because it's a private road and they would have had to get a permit that's signed by the owner of the road in order to get to allow them to dig in that area. So I believe that's why you had to move your water stop. Is that correct?
No, that's part of the reason. Being in the wetlands is also connecting to that would have been, obviously an encroachment into that 50-foot perimeter. Yeah. So
it's also
back on that.
Sure. It's also our understanding that the rain garden, although it needs to be planted according to spec, there's no requirement to maintain it. There's no outside.
Other than the honor system.
Yeah, other than the honor system to maintain its health and to see that it continues to function down the road. So that's a concern, but it's apparently nothing that we can do about it or suggest be done about it. So let me see. The driveway, it says the construction entrance, there's something in the plan that says the length of the construction entrance is governed by soil type, whether it's 50 or 100 feet long. Could somebody explain what that means?
That basically it prevents that 50 to 100-foot construction entrance is designed to prevent tracking of dirt or soil onto bow and arrow trail. What it's basically implying is that certain soils track differently. So based on the soils found on site, if you need a longer distance to prevent transport of soils, then you put a longer construction entrance on there. With bow and arrow being gravel road, it's not as critical because it's basically an extension of a construction entrance. It's a long gravel road. It's not going to show up with silts on pavement per se.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think that I'm not sure. I don't think I have any more points to address. I would like to see if it's possible to have some sort of buffer between our lot line and the construction entrance. It would also be nice if the foundation could be moved a couple of feet over to the north to allow that. And that's all I have.
John, could you or the engineer address that, whether it's possible to move the footprint of the home a little further north and the driveway as well?
Dave, I'd have to leave that to the engineer. It looks like zoning wise, there's room to move it, but there might be drainage or septic reason why it can't be moved. Patrick, do you Do you
Yeah,
know?
we could move that. I'd have to double check the setbacks for the zone. But yeah, that house could reasonably be moved north. I'd have to check and see how far. But
Right now, it looks like it's 12 feet from the southern line, and I can't read the dimension to the northern line. Is that 18 feet?
it's 15.
15? So
Yeah.
we might have a couple feet to move it, David.
That would be great. That would be a good faith, move.
Patrick, is that a one-story house or two-story?
I believe it would be 2-story. Like I said, we don't have foundation building plans yet, but my guess would be 2-story.
Thank you.
And I'm curious about the size of the driveway. You had said 9 feet, I think, for the driveway construction entrance, but it does look like 12 when you compare it to
12.
that southeast
Yep.
corner.
So
Yep.
it's 10 feet wide. If you look, it's a foot off the property and then a foot off the house. So that would
Okay.
add up to
Okay.
that.
All right. Thank you.
Welcome.
Adequate for
You,
construction
how
entrance?
will cars that visit the house be able to turn around? I can't see where they could back out into the wetland buffer, the 50-foot perimeter.
We did provide a turnaround in front of the house, and it may be hard to see, but in
That
the
stockpile area?
yeah, so that's only during construction. That it would be once construction is completed, where a homeowner would pull straight in, and then he could back in and pull out there. We also marked that with a 4x4 post to prevent them driving into the rain garden.
So shouldn't that be marked as a future driveway?
It is. The lines are in there. It's kind of busy. There's a lot of lines with the rain garden and then that edge of the driveway. The construction entrance also makes it a little bit confusing. But Jay, I believe, is tracing it.
Lorraine, I think it's on the plans. It says construction entrance protection. I think that what they have pictured there is within the stockpile area of what's
Right.
it appears.
So Jay, there are no setbacks from driveways to abutters?
No, there are not.
Jay, isn't the setback from a neighboring property line in an R20 15 feet?
I'd have to look that up. If you give me a moment, I can do so.
Yeah, unless it's changed recently, I'm pretty sure that R20 says 15 feet from any neighboring property lines, which
Yeah, I believe it is 15 feet.
Is it possible that it's potentially a existing, I believe the word is non-conforming lot of record, that it would have reduced side setbacks?
John Kenyon, are you aware of the reduced setbacks for substandard lots of record?
Yeah, it's so the side yard setback is based on the frontage. And so I'm looking it up now in an R20.
In R20, it's 15 feet
For a conforming lot of record, but
for a
there,
conforming lot of record. When it becomes non-conforming, Jay, it's controlled by, it's on page CDA-16. It's to be
So if the frontage is 55 feet, which I think it is,
less.
then under the zoning ordinance, I believe it's 12 feet. It actually might be less than that.
I'm looking at it now. I have a lot width not less than 60 feet. R20 would be an 11-foot side
11
yard.
foot, yeah.
Does that change the front setback as well,
I don't believe so.
which normally would be 35, and it looks like it's 33 on these plans?
So the table A into section 207 and R20, if the minimum lot depth is less than 125, the minimum front is 25 feet. So it doesn't count for that as well.
Well, going back to what stemmed that comment in the first place, if it's 11 feet from an abutting property, would it be possible to move that foundation to reduce that distance to the north from 15 to 11 and increase the distance from the southern abutter from 12 to 16?
That is possible. I'd have to, because I don't believe, we typically don't like to put a house right up to a setback. Basically to prevent an encroachment if they build it, an inch off to the north.
Well, you're doing, yeah, that I recognize that. I mean, maybe then at least flip the 15, 12
Okay.
to the north.
Yeah, I can make that work.
Excellent.
The only concern I have is part of DEM's rules is you need to maintain 25% of the building foundation within the existing foundation as proposed. It basically prevents a redesign through DEM. If that, I don't believe that would cause a problem though. I think that we're well within that. So yeah, we can do a 12-foot setback from that northerly line.
For the limits of disturbance impact the frontage on the road. The allowable frontage.
I don't think so.
Okay.
And I would also note that a couple months ago, at a zoning board hearing, a neighbor had the same concern regarding construction vehicles. And the zoning board did place a condition on there that they not block the neighbor's access to their property or impede their property. So I don't think that type of condition would be a problem.
It seems that so far we haven't really addressed one of the key issues of the flooding that occurs where a car could get stuck, either going to or coming from the new dwelling. Patrick, can you suggest any solutions to that? I mean, I can just envision a scenario where an emergency vehicle has to visit the house and treat someone and they can't get there or they can't get out.
Sure. The crushed stone driveway that we're proposing wouldn't pose that issue. As far as the end of Bow and Arrow Trail being impassable, I'd have to. I wouldn't think that, based on what we have, I don't have any evidence that it would be impassable. The
Even though
alternative
it's
would be to
flooded to
add.
the water stop?
I'm sorry?
Even though it's flooded to the water stop?
Well, I'm not sure which water stop we're talking about, the one in the 50-foot perimeter wetland or the one in front of the Bissett's lot. I'd have to double check. I don't have an answer for that. The only thing that we could do is improve the gravel of Bow and Arrow Trail to meet a standard where it won't be, a flooding hazard.
I think that would be important because as I do remember her saying, Mrs. Brissett, that the flooding is north of the existing water stop on lot 32. So
Okay.
that's the problem area,
Yeah.
which would also lead into the driveway for the new dwelling. So I would suggest that the gravel be continued up to the new driveway at least. Any thoughts?
Yeah, John and Jane, is the existing gravel, does it end perpendicularly to the road, or is it, it almost looks like it's a diagonal?
It is kind of a diagonal at the water stop. Yeah. I did send in a couple of pictures
To Mr. J. Parker?
to Mr. Parker, and it did I think they're both titled flooding 1 and flooding 2 or something for Bow and Arrow Trail North. And it pretty much shows what happens. Yeah, there you go. So right where you see the little sign on the right in the light pole, that's where our water stop is. And you can see that the gravel pretty much ends right there.
Yep.
And the property line is actually past that forked tree on the right. And I think there's another one that shows a little bit more of a close-up. It's runoff 2. And you can see that it's not only flooded by the runoff coming down the trail, but also it's pretty wet off to the right coming off lot 33. It's and that's, that's where everybody gets stuck. Somebody might come down. One fella, he came down with a box truck because he was following his GPS. It reminded me of a Seinfeld episode. It told him to go straight into the swamp, and that's what he did. And yeah, he had to be towed out. And like I said, the guy who was doing the surveying, he was parked right there, and he had to be towed out. And it wasn't even raining at the time. I mean, it just gets really soaked. And it's fine in the summertime, but not during the other 6 months. So I just, picture tells a story, I think. And you can see where the end of the gravel is, which is adjacent to the water stop.
I think we can recommend that the applicant extend the gravel to their driveway, their new driveway.
Yeah, they have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have to kind of wonder at what point is a lot buildable versus not, This seems to be some pretty serious limitations. The other alternative might be if we've not a big house to begin with, but if we certainly just use a slab rather than crawl space, there'll be less displacement of groundwater, which would help with the water. And even reducing moving the building north so that we can move the driveway away from the property edge. And even reducing the size of the building footprint would make sense in a situation like this because the size of the building contributes to the size of the rain garden. And the amount of runoff, obviously, too. So I think we have to do everything to minimize the runoff further, as well as address the road safety. They both go hand in hand.
We have agreed to move the house. We aren't going to agree to reduce the size of the house. It's a pretty small house as it is. If you want to make that recommendation to the zoning board, that's fine, but we're not going to agree to it at this time.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I'd like to add the slab elevation. We did propose it to be at least a foot above the seasonal high water table, so it won't actually displace any of that water. Just for clarity.
I meant the crawl space would displace the groundwater.
Either the crawl space or the slab, they're both proposed at the same elevation. They'd both be above that foot above the water table, so it wouldn't create any displacement of that.
That's exactly where the building plans would have come in handy in knowing that. For the commission members, I've got our concerns listed, and let me know if I've missed anything. That the driveway be pervious, that any tree roots encountered from the southern lot must be cleanly pruned by a Rhode Island licensed arborist to avoid infection or infestation. The road should be gravelled up to the new driveway construction entrance. The existing deciduous tree along the southern property line of the new property should remain. That the setbacks on the north and south be flipped so that we have the larger setback on the southern line. The construction vehicles should not block neighbors' access to the dwelling. And I guess that's about all I have. Did I miss anything on our discussion?
One more, something across the road to demarcate.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Are we complete with public comment?
I don't know.
It sounds like the board is deliberating.
No, I was just reviewing as to where we are at this point. So if anybody has anything more to add, public, please let me know if I missed anything.
There's one additional one, and that's the suggestion about putting the posts on the line of the setback from the wetland.
Okay. And do the Brissettes have any further comments here?
I would just wonder if the, at the end of the trail where the 50-foot perimeter is, that needs to be, I would imagine there would be hay bales there during construction and stuff.
We have silt fence proposed.
Silt
Yeah.
fence, yeah. So,
Yep.
but now when construction is complete, that'll all be pulled out and there'll be no buffer between the end of the road and the wetland. Is that
That's
correct?
correct.
That's all, yeah.
Does anybody else have any further comments?
I think the other issues were protecting the drain field and the rain garden from trucks, having fencing around it, even silt fencing would be great. I still think a regular slab, not a crawl space, would reduce the extent of disturbance and reduce the amount of fill next to the house to cover that, the added height with the crawl space. There would be a line of posts indicating the protected wetland buffer at the perimeter with signage indicating it's a wetland not to be disturbed. I think those are the key.
Lorraine, where would that line be?
Where the trees are planned at the
Yep.
50-foot perimeter on the lot, there would
Yep.
be a row of posts indicating that it definitely is a protected buffer with signage indicating that it's a protected wetland buffer not to be disturbed.
Got it.
For future homeowners that aren't aware that it is a wetland.
Okay. Jay, I've written down all of these concerns. Have you been doing the same? So that if we have a motion, you've got these concerns listed?
No, I have not been, but you should articulate that motion for a proper vote with the associated conditions as the commission sees fit.
Okay. Commission members, are we ready to go ahead with a motion? Or does anybody have anything more they want to add? Hearing none, I will move that motion to the zoning board of review that we accept the plans for this and for the special use permit for this AP 34-2 lot 33 and listing our following concerns: that the driveway be made pervious, that any tree roots encountered from the southern lot must be cleanly pruned by a Rhode Island licensed arborist to avoid infection or infestation, that the that the Bow and Arrow Trail Road, which is gravel, be continued gravel up to the proposed construction entrance and driveway of the new property, that the setbacks to the north and south be reversed so that the greater setback is to the southern lot, that construction vehicles should not block the neighbor's access to their dwelling. We would recommend that a slab be used instead of a crawl space to reduce in fraction on water movement, that there be posts installed along the setback from the wetlands where the proposed trees will be planted so that we will know that that area is not to be disturbed, that the proposed rain garden be protected from construction traffic, and that there be a line of posts indicating a protected wetland buffer not to be disturbed. That is the motion. Do I hear a second?
Could I'd just like to recommend one minor change, that the rain garden and the BSF drain field be protected from disturbance by a silt fence or something similar during construction.
Okay, to that language of protecting the rain garden from construction traffic, we will add protecting the rain garden and the BSF drain field.
Right. Thank you.
So that is the new language for the proposal. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any further discussion before we close out? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thanks.
Thank you, Brissettes.
Yeah.
Our next item is an advisory opinion to the planning board for a preliminary plan for a comprehensive permit, major subdivision, the village at Curtis Corner. Do we have someone here representing the applicants?
Thank you. Once again, Mr. Chairman, it's John Kenyon, attorney for the applicant.
Hi, John. Can't get rid of you.
Yeah, I know. The applicant's property is located on Curtis Corner Road, otherwise known as Flanders Road. The property is just under 30 acres in size. It's in an R20 zoning district. They filed a comprehensive permit application for the creation of 24 lots, which would contain 16 single-family dwellings and 8 two-family dwellings. There'd be one affordable unit in each of the 8 two-family dwellings. The concept is for young couple with a family that could buy the two-family, live in one of the units, and then rent one of the other units as affordable. We appeared before you last year during the master plan stage of review, and you didn't provide a recommendation because at the time you didn't feel there was sufficient information to give a recommendation on. We did receive master plan approval in March of last year. Under the subdivision process, we then go, after we receive a master plan approval, we then apply to the state for all necessary approvals, and then we have a preliminary plan public hearing with the planning board. We've had one hearing so far. They requested that we come back to you since we have more detailed engineering along with the landscaping plans. We've also filed for the necessary state approvals. They're very close to receiving those. and not much has changed as far as the design since the master plan. Eric Prevey from DePreet Engineering is the project engineer. I'm going to have him briefly go over the existing conditions, the changes from the master plan, and where we are with the state permitting. And that unfortunately, Eric has to be at another public hearing in another town. So he's going to talk really fast.
I won't go too fast. First of all, can everybody hear me okay?
Yep, thank you.
Okay, thank you. For the record, Eric Prevey, P-R-I-V as in Victor E, a registered professional engineer with DePreet Engineering. To give you a quick overview, actually, it has, as John had mentioned, actually not much has changed from master plan. What we were able to do, one of the things that we looked at was during the public hearing process, one of the abutters we were talking to that was located just to the east of us here had some concerns about drainage. So what we were able to do is we actually increased this area in the front from the original master plan. The master plan had a smaller area coming to this front area for infiltrating groundwater. So we actually were able to shift the units up a little bit. We shifted them all up to the north here, and we were able to create a larger area up here to be able to treat that stormwater. Also, there's an existing catch basin that's located right here in Curtis Corner Road. And that catch basin actually just goes to a flared end that just comes into a roadside ditch here. There's no treatment, it just goes from catch basin into the roadside ditch. So as part of our development, we're actually able to take that and we have the roadside ditch here, but then it actually now overflows and comes in and gets treated within our water quality over here. We have a sand filter that's located right here in the front. So it's a stormwater sand filter, not the bottomless sand filter like the septic system you were talking about, just the sand filter for stormwater in the front. So we're actually treating a portion of the roadway that is not currently being treated today. It was just direct discharge into this roadside swale here as well. We also added on some, because of the concerns from the abutter, we also added some dry wells and some driveway trenches to really take away the stormwater in this front portion over here. So in this front watershed, there's kind of a small ridge between the two watersheds here. So this area in the front here. So all of the ones that come in the front that go to Curtis Corner today, we actually have infiltration trenches along the driveways, and then we have dry wells as well. We also put a light swale in the back here to make sure that none of the stormwater comes over and it comes directly into this sand filter in the front here. And then in the back, we have the stormwater from the roadway and from some of the driveways coming in and being treated within an infiltration basin back here as well. So that's all treated back here, metered out prior to being discharged to the wetland. So there's a large swamp wetland that's located in the northwest portion over here. So that's metered out to pre-development conditions and providing all the water quality improvements. As Attorney Kenyon had mentioned, we do have, as we are concurrent with DEM freshwater wetlands, but I did speak to both the biologist and the engineer, and they have signed off on the design, and it's just waiting for final approval from the permitting supervisor. So we anticipate having that wetland permit in hand any day now as well. As part of the preliminary submission, all of the documents were provided to the Department of Public Services as well. Your town engineer has reviewed the stormwater calculations, the soil erosion and sediment control plans, and the operations and maintenance manual for the long-term operations and maintenance as well. So that has been reviewed and signed off before we went to our first public hearing as well. So that's kind of the summary of the stormwater. It is serviced by public municipal sewer as well. So no septic systems, no septic discharge on this site at all. Public water and public sewer. So no wells and no infiltration of any sewage on site at all. It's all directly going into the public system as well. So that's kind of the overview. Be happy to answer questions briefly, but I'd be happy to answer questions.
Eric, wasn't there a plan to have a trail or a path from the development to Route 108?
There was discussion of that, and we reached out to both of the eastern abutters. The large one right here, that is the public safety complex. So that's right. The police station.
Right.
They're not, we did reach out and we received that they're not going to allow it. They don't want people going through the property. I guess between some of the confidential or the private stuff that they have for the public safety complex, they don't want that anybody going through it. So that was provided to the planning staff that we aren't able to go in this area here. And then also we did contact the neighbors to the northeast over here. There's a small portion that stays out of the 50-foot perimeter there, but that they also were not amenable to allowing us through them as well. They have specialty services on this private specialty services commercial on this as well. So there is, I mean, just to clarify here, there is a full sidewalk going along the northern portion of Curtis Corner Road here. So it does go all the way to Kingstown Road, Route 108 here, and then along sidewalks along Route 108 as well. So there is pedestrian access the entire way to get over to the 108 area. But yes, we did look into it, Mr. Flanders. That was one of the things that was discussed, and we looked at the only two options that we had with properties and exhausted that neither of those would be allowed.
The other concern I had was about open space. And while technically there's a great deal of it, it's listed on sheet 6 as wooded swamp. Now, the swamp make it inaccessible for people to have passive recreation?
Probably, I would say, not always, but in the instance of this swamp, I would say that it would likely be not for passive recreation. And also, we had talked about, because this area is directly north of the culvert that goes to Asa Pond directly across the street there,
right?
That the open space, we would put a drainage easement over the actual drainage pond itself right here. And then this parcel could actually be given to the town. It would provide some additional flood management, not true flood. I'm not talking about floodplain, but just general stormwater flood management because of this large parcel that's directly up gradient from Mesa Pond. So that actually would be able to be to the town as well. There's also adjacent open space areas just to the north of here as well. So it would be a nice large contiguous area with the other ones that are already town owned.
So isn't all that open space area and much of the area where the homes are going part of the national? Is that part of the National Heritage Area?
So a piece of it is, yes, and we looked into.
Well, most of it, isn't it? Isn't
correct?
most
Yes. Yep. Yes, it is, and but not in the upland area. We were able to speak to DEM and get the
area that's not part of that area.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Yeah, could you point to the area of the what's on the screen that's not part of the National Heritage Area?
I believe I do. Now you're just, you know what? I don't want to be incorrect in pointing to something, but I believe my recollection was, and it kind of, you could see it better actually on the soils over here, but it's right in this area. So I believe from my recollection, and I don't want to misspeak, but I believe it's approximately this kind of midpoint over here.
Okay, because I mean your plans seem to indicate, as does the DEM's website, that most of this lot is encompassed, except for a very small portion of it, as part of that.
Right,
area.
and what I was trying to say was, we also, as part of that, our job is to also contact DEM and find out what those areas are and why they are. And so we got the species of endangered and or there were, I don't recall them off the top of my head, but there was 3 species, and they were all plant species, and none of them were found in the upland portion of where we are located, not in the upland portion.
So the area, the 20 plus acres of open space, wetland area, my question, and David asked this, is what exactly is going to happen to that area? You're proposing that it be somehow conveyed to the town?
Yes. Yep. Given to the town. Absolutely.
And that's part of your plan? And
yes,
that's
it is.
With the town?
That is part of our plan to have that be given to the town as well. As I mentioned, it's it's part of the being just north of and being of a swamp, that a lot of times having the control of those wetland features that contribute to your other wetland features would be very important from public services perspective of being able to do any, any mitigation or anything that they would need to do on maintenance on that end. So yeah, it is proposed to be to the town. There's no active recreation proposed for the development.
The roadway that goes in, is that going to be a public road?
It is a public road, yes. Yep.
Will there
And that
be
was
I'm sorry. Will there
That's
be
okay.
any
I was just going to say it was reviewed and approved. The design has been reviewed by your public services as well. Yeah. Yep.
Is there any kind of association, like a homeowners association?
Yes, for the stormwater. Yep, there'll need to be one for the stormwater portions of it. Yep, to make sure, because even though the road will be public, the town doesn't take over the maintenance for the stormwater service, the stormwater measures. So yes, there'll be a homeowners association for all the maintenance of the stormwater measures. Yeah.
And what happens to the walls that are part of, I think there are some walls that show on your plan. What happens?
We're trying to rebuild as much as possible. We have on the landscape plan, we're going to be rebuilding. So there's an existing wall that's located along the front here. So we're going to be rebuilding between this portion here that's on the landscape plan. And then we'll look to reuse the stone walls as much as we can on site as well, and rebuild as we can. So that was a question from the planning board as well. That was something that they were mentioning as well, Mr. O'Connor.
Chris, what are the limitations or restrictions implied in a national heritage area?
I don't know. I mean, I've attempted to do some research. There's some notations made in the proposal here, and our own comprehensive plan seems to designate this area as a sensitive and critical environmental area, including the area that is encompassed in this, where the house lots are going. But frankly, I didn't find anything to suggest what, if any, limitations there are.
Okay.
Eric, is there a requirement for protection of upland open space in this zoning district? Because it seems awfully dense for the amount of development on a small, relatively small area of suitable land.
So what we used is, no, there is not. But because it is a comprehensive permit, we had laid these out even back at master plan, each of the lot sizes and the relief that was needed. But what we did was we took the town's comprehensive plan and the underlying densities. This area is what is known as the medium high density, which allows 1 per 4.35. So that's effectively a 10,000 square foot lot effectively. We took only the upland area. So there's 7.4 acres of upland. And then that was what the density was driven off of. So staying still within the town's comprehensive plan and then restructuring it for the density purposes. So there are some areas obviously for stormwater measures and such, but and we only use the upland area. That is not a requirement of the density, but that's what we use to come across.
It'd be difficult to build in the wetland. My second thought is that there is no indication that any type of innovative low impact development is occurring in terms of design and the extent of pavement. The driveways are extremely wide. The guidelines are 9 feet wide with a broadening as you approach the house, not immediately. The cul-de-sac doesn't look like it's going to have vegetation in the middle, and that's a pretty large cul-de-sac. It could be vegetated. There could be shared driveways, particularly lot 24 and 23, where for safety concerns, it does narrow to 1, but it's still 2 very large, very wide driveways. Lots 20 and 21, I mean, many of them have, almost all of them are excessively wide. Just
so
Like there's
Okay,
any
sorry.
effort to reduce impervious cover.
So one of the discussion points at the last planning board meeting was to add a landscape island. So we will be doing that. We actually have that. That'll be going into the town actually tomorrow. So there will be a landscape island that's added into the cul-de-sac. Because we have with the duplexes there, we need to have room for 4 off-street parking spaces. So that's why some of them you can see, for instance, lot 21 is a duplex that has to have 4 off-street parking spaces. So that's why that one's a little bit wider, whereas you can see lot number 1 just has the 2 off-street parking spaces as well. So we looked at it in that instance. As far as the shared, we did have the shared for lot 23 and 24 because that goes out onto Curtis Corner Road to limit the curb cuts and turning movements. But internal to the site, we didn't want to create any shared resources become conflict between neighbors. And so we were trying to limit that in a lot of regards. So it just seemed from, if you had to share from a neighbor, it becomes difficult a lot of times. So that you can recommend what you prefer. At the same point, I'm giving you the rationale of how we came up with what we did as well.
And Eric, aren't we asking for waivers for the size of the road? We're going from, I believe it should be 50 feet to 40 feet. And
That's the right of way, technically. Right. That is technically the right of way. And so I think from what Lorraine is talking about is impervious sizes, but we have reduced it to the narrowest that the town allows. I believe it's 24 feet wide. So, but yes.
So what we see as 40-foot wide for Vespia Lane is actually going to be 24?
The roadway is 24. The right of way is 40. So the right of way, I mean, just the fictitious kind of.
Right. Got it. And by the way, regarding lots 24 and 23, is there room for a car to turn around within that driveway, or are they back?
Spot on. That was another comment that we're changing as well. Yeah, we'll have a small turnoff. And matter of fact, you can see it if you ever go by there. Right over on the existing home that's just to the west from here. There's a frontage lot that was just built, and it does have the same thing. So yeah, those will exactly have that. They'll have a place to be able to turn to the side so they can turn around and not back onto Curtis Corner Road. So both of those comments are between adding a landscape island and the turnaround for lots 23 and 24. Those are both comments. You guys are right in line with what the planning board has been saying.
Eric, another question about the perimeter wetland where it looks like it needs protection. What do you have in mind to ensure those landowners don't encroach on that area?
I believe the part of the planning board is going to also be to add some monumentation out there as well. Add some either whatever the town wants for monumentations, either some timbers and placards or some sort of a demarcation. So there's a visual demarcation out there. So we'll listen to what the planning board recommends on that as well.
Okay. I would think in this case, a full-blown fence would be appropriate given the number of houses there and that it is an issue in other subdivisions in South Kingstown. With signage indicating that it's a protected area not to be disturbed.
Yeah, that makes sense. I apologize. I have to go. I have a public hearing that is starting right now, and I am the sole expert witness. So I apologize if I am not able to answer everyone's questions. I think Attorney Kenyon can also hope John can dance real well. No, I'm kidding. John can answer questions as well, and at least what has happened on the planning. And then I apologize. I wish I could have stayed longer. I thought I was clear with I thought I was good with a 6 o'clock start and having 7:30. I thought I was good, but I missed the ball. So I apologize, but I do have to go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I can try to answer any non-engineering questions, and also if you have engineering questions, maybe repeat what Eric said at the many hearings so far on this.
Well, John.
Excuse me. Yeah.
Sorry.
Vern Wyman. I was just going to comment that I know the last time that we did review this project, we were reflecting upon the combination of duplexes and single family occupancies here, and we're concerned with traffic I think since that time, from the records there, it is a traffic report now. Could you comment on that and the results that they got?
Sure. So we, Paul Bandon from Beta Engineering did prepare and submit a traffic report. It showed that it would not impact the level of service in the area. At the last hearing with the planning board, they asked for an update, I believe, concerning the light at Curtis Corner and 108. And he submitted that, showed that it would not impact the level of service of the light there. The other thing that the board was concerned about at the master plan hearing was the impact of the town potentially moving the high school to the Curtis Corner Middle School. And that was taken into effect on the traffic.
Good.
Since we were last before you, the concept of the duplex as affordables, having one unit be affordable and one be market rate, this is kind of a new concept. And when we discussed it with Rhode Island Housing, they love the idea. And we have been to the town's affordable housing collaborative twice now, and they've given positive recommendations on that concept.
Well, again, John, my main concern is the lack of accessible passive open space. And it is a very, very dense project. In my ideal world, we would lose lots 6 through 13 and have that be open space. But I mean, I would just see that as a much more friendly development, friendly to the residents, future residents, friendly to the town. I just think it's overly dense, and that if it were less dense, we would have more open space. That's just where I'm coming from.
Or actually, the lots in the closer to the wetland could be eliminated, where the road would be shorter, and it would, just, it's probably better to have the density closer to the police station and the less density by the wetland.
Yeah,
So
I agree with that. And also what Lorraine had said earlier about the size of the driveways. They seem excessively large, really.
They're huge. Yeah.
So Lorraine, you would be talking about lots 12 through 15, say?
Yeah, in that vicinity, or if the road was shorter, then you wouldn't need, you could keep them around the cul-de-sac shorter, but not so many on the north near the wetland.
Yeah.
Well, I would note that the concept behind this is close to the core of the town. There are recreational areas you can walk to. I would agree if we were on the outskirts of town, it was a larger parcel. But the town needs affordable housing. And this is one of the few lots in town that works for this type of development. There's not many left like this. If we start reducing the number of lots, then you're reducing the affordable housing. And that's the whole concept with this development.
This is Amy Goins. May I jump in?
Sure.
Hi, everyone. And I'm sorry I haven't met some of you in person. I think this is actually my first Conservation Commission meeting. So I've been listening. I just want to jump in on this one question of density. This is an advisory opinion to the planning board. We're at the preliminary plan stage now. That means they're vested for density, right? The density vesting occurs at the master plan stage. Doesn't mean it's set in stone forever, but it means that the approved density is what will govern going forward unless the engineering produced at the subsequent plan review stage shows that the land can't support the approved density. So I would encourage you in your discussion and your recommendation to the planning board to consider that. And if you have recommendations on conditions that will mitigate the impact of the approved vested density, you should certainly feel free to propose those. But I want to caution you against, and I've provided this advice to the planning board as well. You know, master plan density, that ship has sailed for the most part.
Thank you. This is an advisory. Go, sorry.
Sorry, David. John, do you know if Eric, in his introduction, did he say that DEM hadn't yet approved this plan?
So
It was waiting on approval for that?
DM has verified the wetlands. I believe we had the wetlands verified even before master plan. They have so with it's a little unusual. With the normal subdivision, you would have all your state approvals before you filed for preliminary. With a comprehensive permit, you have to show that you've filed all your state permits. So we have done that. He did hear back from the staff that they were signing off on it, and we're just waiting for their supervisor to give the final okay on it.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any further comments for John or for anyone? This is an advisory opinion to the planning board. Would someone like to make a motion? Lorraine?
Well, clearly, we all know that at the preliminary stage, there won't be many changes. We recognize that. It's just frustrating to see such a dense development that has no usable open space, especially given the need. Not everyone can drive to a nearby publicly owned open space. So it's frustrating to see that level of density with no open space. Otherwise, I think major issues we've identified is that, as the planning board has already recognized, there's a great deal of impervious area, and the cul-de-sac should be left vegetated in the center, revegetated, possibly even as an infiltration area for stormwater runoff, or with trees and shrubs, and trees and shrubs. The driveways are extremely wide. We recognize they need to widen near the building to provide parking, but DEM's own recommendations in their LID municipal self-assessment checklist is 9 feet wide. So they can certainly be reduced closer to that. I think there is a great risk for infringement of property owners on use of the protected open space at the wetland edge, at the wetland perimeter. And I recommend fencing, not just posts, but fencing and tree planting at that edge with signage to clearly show that it's protected and shall not be infringed upon. And ideally, the homeowners association should have provisions for enforcing that and having some type of enforcement with reparations due if it's not enforced.
That's good.
Not sure if there's anything else that came up.
One comment I have is, if all of these duplexes will have a tenant, next door neighbor, who would make recommendations on the lease, including, things like parking and not impacting the wetlands and things like that, because they're not ownership, they're renters. Would someone make a recommendation on the lease that they would sign as far as wetlands and parking and other things that would disturb wetlands?
We're going to have a homeowners association with restrictions for the drainage and the open space, and they will apply to both the owners and the renters.
Okay.
So they would be enforceable against somebody renting one of the houses.
Okay.
So Lorraine, your motion would be that of approval to the planning board with those conditions as our concerns.
I don't know if I'd go so far as approval, but to recommend those changes be added to the plan.
Okay. Do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
That's Ann Heffron, seconds Lorraine's motion. Any further discussion before we put it to a vote? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes.
Great, thank you, and I'm going for good this time, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Promise.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Jay.
I do see a hand raised. Mr. Alex Petrucci has his hand raised. Would you like to go to him before we move on to the next item?
Sure, Mr. Petrucci, please.
Alex, if you could unmute yourself. See you have your hand raised. Alex, you there? Alex, it looks like you did successfully unmute yourself. If you could speak. Oh, he's gone. Okay. Ready to move on.
Okay. Our next thing is an advisory opinion to the planning board again for the Matunic Beach Road condominiums for a 12-unit condominium multi-household land development project and associated site improvements. AP 92-2, lot 56, located on Matunic Beach Road. Stephen DeSimone is the applicant. Eileen Biancuso is the owner. Is anyone here representing either of those two people?
I believe there are, Mr.
Hamill from Deprete Engineering.
Mr. Chairman, just quickly, Amy Goins is available as legal counsel. If she can just, if you don't mind, set the stage for where the planning board is on the
Sure.
application process and your advisory role.
That would be helpful. Thank you.
This is Amy Goins, legal counsel. The planning board is meeting Thursday night. I want to say they've had 3, if not 4 meetings on this application. The decision deadline is coming up in February. I believe at the last meeting, the board directed staff to draft a motion of approval. This is a comprehensive permit, so as you know, it's governed under a different framework than the standard conventional subdivision or land development project. The Conservation Commission, as you know, sits in an advisory role to the planning board. So your advice on the environmental concerns is welcomed.
Michael Resnick, on behalf of the applicant, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Members of the commission, Mr. Chair, again, Michael Resnick on behalf of the applicant. I do have with me this evening the project engineer, Mr. Chris Duhamel, First, I'd like to just give a very brief overview of the project, and then I will turn it over to Mr. Duhamel for a more specific presentation as to some items that we believe the commission will be interested in. And of course, we'll be open for questions, any questions that the commission may have. The property is located at Matunic Beach Road. It's plat 92-2, lot 56. The parcel is 4.77 acres, and it's in a mixed zone, CN and R20. By way of background, we have completed our pre-application concept review before the Planning Board and the Tech Review Committee, and we are presently before the Planning Board on our conceptual master plan review. We have had two lengthy hearings before the board on this present application. I would estimate anywhere between 7 to 8 hours of public comment and question and answering and presentation before the board. And we are presently scheduled for a meeting before the planning board on January 7th of this week. And so as the commission is aware, we still have before us our application for a preliminary plan and also final plan. And I would remind the commission that, like the previous applicant and presentation, this is a comprehensive permit pursuant to state law for low medium income housing. And so the proposal right now is a 12-unit residential condominium complex in the form of 6 duplex structures, as is depicted on the site plan in front of you. Access is proposed via private driveway with the parcel's lot frontage located on Matunic Road. As Mr. Duhamel will discuss with you, we've proposed to manage the stormwater through the installation of various features on the eastern and western portion of the site. The development is proposed to be serviced by public water, and originally it was to be a single community on-site water treatment system to serve these 12 units. However, based on commentary from the planning board as well as the public, that's been changed to 6 units, so 1 unit to serve each of the structures. And again, this is a comprehensive permit application, so 25% of these units, 3 units, will be deed restricted as low to moderate income housing. I also think it's important to share with the commission some of the background of this project because it was first before the planning board for review back in May 30th of 2019. And at that time, the applicant was actually proposing 24 units. We went before pre-application, we listened to the planning board, we listened to the concerns of the public. And as a result of that process, we returned to another pre-application concept plan on August 29th of 2019, where this project was significantly modified and reduced to a 12-unit condominium complex, again, consisting of 6 structures, along with the waivers that we are requesting from the planning board. We also appeared before the TRC on July 8th, 2020, and this is all before coming to you. So I just wanted to lay for you the background, and I also wanted to highlight, I did hear some concerns relative to the last presenter relative to density. And I do want to impress upon the board, and I'm sure your solicitor will do so, that this is a comprehensive permit and that we have vetted this issue for quite a while before the planning board. We've gone from that 24 units down to that 12 unit. And I also want to let the commission know that during those presentations to the planning board, we also presented a yield plan, which had the exact same amount of bedrooms that we're seeking in this present application, but also as a matter of right would allow for a commercial use such as a restaurant. And so I just want to give that background because we've had a lot of back and forth with the planning board and the public, and it's been very fruitful, and I think it's been a good process. One final thing that I would say is that public comment is open at the planning board. And as you can imagine, we have fielded comments from a wide variety of subjects, different categories. And I would just ask this evening when public comment is received that, Mr. Chair, that you advise the public that this is an opportunity to talk about environmental impacts, if any, as a result of this proposed development, because they've already had a very significant opportunity to discuss this project. Nobody wants to cut them off, but they're also going to have an opportunity on January 7th to discuss issues that are not within the purview of this board. And the last thing I'll say before I hand it off to my colleague, Mr. Duhamel, is that, you know, in part because we've not been before this commission before, we're not exactly sure what specific issues may be concerned, and we're also dealing with being in different places because of the Zoom format. We're ready to listen today. We're ready to answer questions. And we're ready to write down items and conditions and recommendations that you may discuss or provide to the planning board. But we're not in a position to make any agreements today. We want to pay close attention, and we'll be prepared on January 7th to address all of these issues in a very clear and finite manner on January 7th. And with that, I would turn this matter over to Mr. Duhamel.
Thank you. Good evening. My name's Chris Duhamel with Dupree Engineering, with offices located at 2 Stafford Court, Cranston, and 90 Broadway in Newport. We've been working for Mr. DeSimone for over 2 years now, and within that time, we've completed a Class 1 property line survey, a topographic survey, wetland flag delineation. We've submitted a concept plan to the CRMC for a preliminary determination in 2019, as Michael has said, for a much greater density, a 24-unit density, and we received a favorable CRMC preliminary determination, which verified the limit of the jurisdiction on the site for CRMC wetlands, established CRMC buffers, and gave the opinion that the 24-unit development as presented would be acceptable upon further engineering and further submission, of course. Since that time, as Michael had said, we have worked with the town on a number of design alternatives, and the plan submitted today for the Conservation Commission review reflects some of those concerns, but it doesn't reflect the recent concerns that the planning board has stated, specifically the septic systems. We had previously provided for one area of a septic system, of denitrification system as required within this watershed. The planning board had asked that we have several septic systems. So we provided now designed for a bottomless sand filter septic system that would serve each duplex. So each four bedrooms building, 2 bedrooms per duplex, would be serviced by a single Advantex denitrification system and a bottomless sand filter. This is made possible because the soils tested across the site were consistently found, within the development area, were consistently found to be well-drained, glacial outwash, ice contact outwash soils, where the water table is not within 10 feet. So this optimum soils from a DEM classification presentation allows for many areas that could be suitable for the septic systems, and that's what we can do. Another benefit of having the bottomless sand filter septic system for each building allows for a more compact design. We can shorten the road length. We can put the bottomless sand filters between each building, the 25-foot spacing between each building. So it makes for a more compact design and less expansive use across the site. Another benefit from the soil testing, the well-drained soils that we've have on site, confirmed on site, is that the stormwater management system can be fully built within the road profile to have a pervious road profile that has a storage volume under the road, a stone volume that would capture the 100-year runoff rate of the pavement structure, capture the 100-year runoff rate of the roof leaders, and route that to the stone reservoir located under the roadway. This would allow for temporary storage of peaks and allow for infiltration within the soil, receiving soil strata. An advantage of this also is that we had proposed on the master plan that we would need an expansive extended dry detention basin to the east that leads towards the CMC wetland. That would no longer be required because we can route all the stormwater underneath the roadway, have it infiltrate, and meet the strict requirements of CRMC and the stormwater manual requirements for infiltration of volume and water quality improvements. So this proposed development seeks to keep all of any residential structures outside of there's a FEMA AE zone located on the east and on the west of the site at elevation 12. And we can keep the buildings generally out of that AE zone at this time. Certainly if within any additional survey, we could actually pick the buildings up so that all the slabs would be above the FEMA AE zone, so we wouldn't be jeopardizing any future homeowners with the location of the buildings within the floodplain. Excuse me. To finish with the roadway, we're proposing about 1,000 feet of roadway, 20 foot in width. We're pitching the road to a pervious area of concrete pavers, if you will, that allow for infiltration of the peak runoff of that road pavement and infiltrate under the road. The road is designed so that it can service emergency vehicles, that there's a turnaround at the end of the roadway so that there is a 38-foot fire truck could easily enter the site, maneuver in the site, and exit the site. So there's a safety aspect to the private roadway as well. Parking is designed similarly with impervious pavement routed to an infiltration structure that would again discharge underneath the roadway and infiltrate the 100-year storm within that area. Parking meets the requirements of 2 units per duplex and having 6 overflow parking areas at this time. The drainage to the west of the site, immediately coming off of Matunic Beach Road, has had considerable review with the public hearings, with the northerly neighborhood of Holden Road and the southerly neighborhood of the condominiums. This design of capturing stormwater runoff infiltrating the 100-year storm allows for no increase, in fact, a decrease from our site to the low area at the west end of this property. The lowest area of the watershed to the west is at elevation 7. There's a peak about 700 feet into the site of elevation 22. And at that peak, everything would drain towards the low area, that elevation 7. But we would not have any discharge from any of the impervious surfaces. So we'll have a decrease in runoff leading to that low point. But one area where we can improve upon, beyond having less volume, less runoff to the low point, we're also increasing the capacity of that low point to the west. The blue area that you see to the east, to the west rather, is fairly accurate in estimation of how much we can expand the capacity of that. And that expanded capacity of that low area of 7, elevation 7, would essentially provide less flooding to the northerly neighborhood. All the flooding that occurs today is not coming from the site. It's actually coming from the existing development of Holden Road and the impervious surfaces of the residential development on Holden Road. So we cannot affect that in any way, but we can improve from our site, and we can improve the capacity on our site to discharge that. So we intend to work closely with the town engineer in evaluating different alternatives on our site that we can accommodate. The site is serviced by public water. Underground utilities will be brought onto the site. We recognize that this is just the beginning of the project, that there's quite a bit of work needed in order to receive CRMC approval and DEM OWS approval, and then town engineer review before we come back to this Conservation Commission. But if there are any questions, I could answer them.
Mr. Duhamel, David Flanders here. You referred to a turnaround at the end of our road. The plans that you have on your screen, I'm looking at right now on my desk, I don't see the turnaround. Would it be going around the eastern stormwater detention area?
No, it's a hammerhead. The road is extended just beyond the entrance to that parking area. So it allows for a T that could be turned with a 3-point turn.
Okay,
And
I don't see it.
the fire chief and received approval.
Is it listed on these plans? Because I don't see it.
Showing it to you.
Yeah, the cursor is moving in the T direction. I have a separate plan that shows the tire movements of a 38-foot truck that was presented to the fire chief, and that's what he utilized to approve.
In other words, it would be extending, the T would be going into the parking area, the eastern.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Okay.
It's a private road. The 20-foot wide road is private. The parking area is private.
Yep.
Chris, can you address the potential for flooding?
From
the FEMA flood zone?
Is for the AE zone.
Yeah.
High potential for flooding. The development itself is positioned above all the flooding. Elevation 12 on the east and 13 on the west defines the mapped flood areas.
Right.
Those have been known to flood and have been demonstrated to flood. So there's no question they will continue to flood. And there's nothing that we can do, obviously, to prevent that, other than to avoid the buildings themselves are slabs on grade. They're not going to have foundations that would cause greater FEMA insurance issues. But they're at elevation 13 to 22 for the slab elevation. So they're above all the floodplains. The stormwater drainage, we've incorporated low impact development as much as we possibly can. We have a 20-foot wide private driveway, which meets fire code, and access and egress to the parcels. So that's minimal in width. We have 5-foot sidewalk for pedestrian access to the parking areas and to the buildings. So that's minimal for lid. Other than that, we don't have any other expansive impervious uses on the site.
That the impervious cover and stormwater treatment looks good. I'm wondering about any projections for higher flood level in the future. Did you take a look at any of those? There are several different ways of looking at that, different mapping programs.
Yeah, I mean, we would have to work with CRMC on that to determine, typically within a 30-year sea level rise, what that flood elevation would be. So there's potential to pick the buildings up, a few more feet.
Well, perhaps the real issue is safety in terms of access out, leaving the area in case it seems like the exits, the two ends are lowest. So leaving the property during a high water event could be a dangerous situation.
I would agree with that. Tunic Beach Road is certainly within the floodplain as well. So this use, this residential use would have to adhere to public safety and not ride out the storm.
Chris, what was your thinking regarding the driveway? You're proposing rolled oil and stone. Why not just have it be gravel to keep it pervious?
Even a gravel road would require inlets to the stone. We've been successful with pervious pavement in commercial applications and residential applications. In this coastal application, we were concerned with sand flies everywhere. So you would have much more maintenance of sweeping, vacuuming the sand. So that's why we felt impervious road to the open concrete pavers would be the best use within this area. Having a full gravel road might, I think it's more maintenance. It's more difficult to maneuver in. It's only 20 feet wide, so having full access of that 20 feet is more guaranteed with a pervious road, pervious pavement.
Impervious.
Well, yeah, it's overall impervious.
Right.
I don't know if I answered your question.
I'm not sure. Thank you. Yeah.
Are there any particular restrictions with it being in the Potter Pond Archaeological District? Are there any restrictions posed on the project?
Which district? I'm sorry.
It looks like it's in the Potter Pond Archaeological District. Does that impose any limitations on your development?
We submitted to Rhode Island HPHC, Historic Preservation, and they found no historic reason to
Okay,
prohibit construction.
okay.
So from your comments earlier, the removal of that central wastewater system, how much does that alter the spacing between the buildings at that point? You mentioned the potential to
Allows
shorten the road as well.
Shortening the road, I can check real quick, about 100 feet. And with that, it's more conducive to an individual sewage disposal system. It's a condominium, it's an association. It would still have one entity that would be responsible for oversight maintenance of all the units, even though there'll be 6 instead of 1. So that high level of scrutiny or maintenance will still exist, but it allows for having about 100 feet less road and the parking reconfigured. So it's a greater separation to the wetlands, less disturbance. And it meets a concern raised by the planning board that one system, what happens if one system were to fail? You know, we'll have limited that
Would it also modestly limit the proximity of the outermost units to that flood margin that's showing there?
well, we're pulling it away from the east side.
Okay.
A better separation. So certainly within that area, yes.
Jay, is there anybody else present with a hand raised?
No, there is currently one attendee, Tori DeSimone. Tori, if you have anything you would like to share or say, please raise your hand. We'll allow you to speak.
I think that's Steve DeSimone.
I believe that's Stephen, yeah.
But Stephen was logged in already.
Okay.
Yeah, Stephen's logged in.
I am logged in. That's my mother.
So no, I do not believe there's anyone else in the public that wishes to speak at this time.
Does anybody else on the commission have any further questions with the applicant? If not, I'd entertain a motion for the recommendation to the planning board. Anyone?
I'll make a motion or a recommendation. It appears that the applicant has taken into account the planning board's concerns and reconfigured the subdivision to address those issues, including using 2 separate OWTS drain fields rather than 1. I mean, pardon me, 6 of them, 1 for every 2 units. Although we really don't know the exact placement yet. In terms of stormwater management, it looks like, given the permeable soils, there are no issues with infiltrating most of the runoff. The primary concern appears to be potential flooding, with more frequent and more severe floods, especially in terms of leaving the site in an emergency. So it would be useful if the applicant could evaluate the scenarios that have been developed in different mapping programs that are out there to evaluate what the future flooding could be over the next 30 years at least.
Lorraine has made a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that motion.
Vern Wyman has seconded. Any final discussion before we vote? Okay, I'd ask that everybody in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, commission members. Have a nice evening.
You
You
too.
You too.
Mr. Chair, I'm gonna leave you as well. Happy New Year to everyone, and if anyone has any general questions on anything related to, you all know much more about conservation than I do, but land use in general, feel free to reach out.
Amy,
Thanks, Amy.
Amy, where are you that the sun is still shining?
That's the office when the sun is shining. That was,
Oh, I got you. It's
yeah,
back.
that's a nice springtime picture of the office. So you don't see my messy basement.
Amy, thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Our next item is proposed changes to DEM rules and regulations governing the administration and enforcement of the Freshwater Wetlands Act. We all got the information from staff. My concerns are the obvious ones. Let me see, where we have until January 8th to file an advisory letter to DEM. And my concerns are reducing the various buffers in each case. On page 5 of the larger text, we have reducing the buffer zone from 200 to 150 feet for other listed large rivers. Reducing the buffer zone from 200 to 150 feet along the Blackstone River and portions of the South Branch of the Patuxent River. Reducing the buffer zone from 200 to 100 feet for listed large rivers. Reducing the buffer zone from 100 to 50 feet for other rivers and streams in urbanized settings. And on page 7, reducing the buffer zone from 50 to 25 feet around swamps in urban regions. And I guess that was it. Does anybody else have any other concerns? Otherwise, I'd like to, list these formally so that staff might write up a letter that I would sign after the meeting. The 8th is Friday and today's Tuesday, so we would have to act on that if we. I would open discussion for the commission on any of these reductions of buffer areas.
David, I think they extended that until, I think, the 22nd.
Oh, okay.
Have that information in front of you?
I do not.
Jay might have it.
I might have it. Let me.
They extended it, I think, to the 22nd. There's also a public hearing on it tomorrow, remote.
Right. But we're not going to be meeting again before the 22nd. So
Right.
any language that we would come up with would have to be done this evening. Is that correct, Jim? Is that something that could be done via email afterwards? Like, in other words, if you were to draft language based on our concerns, could you field that draft letter to us prior to finalizing it and putting it in the mail?
Mr. Chair, I would respectfully decline to write the letter for you. You do have a secretary. I am cognizant about putting words in the commission's mouth, so to speak.
Sure.
If there are points that the commission wants to make, they should be discussed and a consensus come up upon between the board members that that's what you'd like to include in the letter. We're more than happy to bring that letter forward. I think the appropriate process would be to forward it to council, to the town council, who then could forward it on to the state on behalf of the Conservation Commission and possibly tag on any other or anything like that along with it.
Sure.
David, I share your concerns, but the problem is, having served on that wetlands task force that spent a long time looking at the science, at the end, they didn't accept the recommendations of the committee overall because one member objected. Initially, the recommendation was to have up to 300 foot buffers in some cases. So given that they didn't really abide by the recommendations of a broad-based committee, they accepted, they just changed it. And they've held several meetings. They seem to be trying to rush this through. I think it's worthwhile commenting on these issues, but I don't have a lot of confidence that they're actually going to increase the buffers from these reduced levels that they're proposing.
And to Lorraine's point, I can confirm her and I have been at quite a few of these meetings from the get-go, and they seem to, the comments that even the planning, the local planners and planning departments have made, they seem to have fallen on deaf ears. A lot of issues that were brought up still remain. They haven't been addressed. It's quite disheartening actually to kind of be a part of it and not have a voice actually truly heard.
Okay.
Responded to.
I agree completely. Yeah.
And just to confirm, the comments has been extended to January 22nd at 4 p.m. is the deadline.
Okay. Well, I thank you for that input. I wasn't aware of the internal workings. So thank you.
So it's not to be completely discouraging. I think there is some opportunity to maintain control over impacts to wetlands in other ways, maybe through stormwater management ordinances, other types of land use changes, enforcing low impact development for one thing. So I think there are other ways. It just can't be labeled a setback.
Yep.
Wetland.
Okay.
I guess one observation I had was just that the process is also designed to make the review process more expedient, with the idea that DEM coordinates with the municipalities. But I don't know about the practicality of that actually happening, because when you consider the level of detail we go into when we look at these developments as well. That's just one exposure that I think is there, at least in black and white. It would have to be proven through practice.
It also seemed to me that besides reducing those setbacks, that their goal is to have everything controlled from the state level as a one-size-fits-all.
Well, that was the intent of the original legislation that the builders pushed through.
Yep.
They wanted everything uniform.
Yep. Okay. Well, thank you for the input. Anybody else have any other comments on that issue? Let's move on.
Excuse me, I'm just wondering, Jay, are you going to be submitting comments at all?
No, I mean, I plan on attending the hearing tomorrow at 1. But I'm disheartened through the whole process.
Yeah, I am too.
It's been a waste of time, and from that meeting that we had at the North Kingstown Library, when they sat there as if they had to and they almost didn't want to hear from us.
Right.
It's kind of like, just take us out of the equation. If you don't want public comment, don't ask for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that part is the hardest because it's the local planners and local residents that know what the issues are. And for them to just not want to hear that, not want to have the municipal officials involved when at an early stage, they're just shooting themselves in the foot.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes.
Just a quick comment, and I understand your discussion and frustration. But if you were to entertain a motion regarding the reduction of setbacks and your concern about that and the loss of some regulatory control at the local level, it may be pertinent to Lorraine's point that with that, you add that, the commission and or the town look at other avenues associated with regulatory views at the local level. To that point of low impact development,
Right.
low impact design standards,
Yep.
stormwater management as we look at regulations in the future. Just
Yep.
to this point, just because you lost it at the state level doesn't mean you've lost development trends at the local level.
I understand. Yep, good. Let's move on to item G, correspondence and public comment. Jay, do you have any correspondence?
You skipped one, Mr. Chairman, number 5.
Oh, yes, 2021 cut, yes. The meeting schedule and also, well, you sent the meeting schedule to us. We remain still on the second Tuesday of each month.
This is a requirement of the Secretary of State that each board and commission for a town file their annual schedule of meetings for each year in January. Well, actually,
Right.
should have been December, but we're over into January.
Yep.
That meeting schedule is basically reflective of your typical schedule that you always adhere to.
Right. Does anybody in the commission have any problems or conflicts with continuing based on the schedule that Jay forwarded to us?
No.
No,
Jay, I don't know that you need a motion on this. Everybody seems to be on board with maintaining what we currently have, the way you laid it out. Do you need anything more from us on this?
No, it appears that there's consensus with the board regarding that schedule. That's fine.
Okay. Good. I will go on to correspondence and ask again if you have anything.
I do not have anything.
Okay. And
I've got one thing, David.
Yeah.
I got an email earlier today from the chair of the Sustainability Committee,
Yep.
who wanted me to point out that next week, let me see if I can call up the exact time. Next Wednesday, January 13th from 5:30 to 7 p.m. There's a public forum addressing the climate crisis. There's a link on the town's website. If you scroll down, there's a link to the Zoom meeting for that. But next Wednesday, January 13th, 5:30 to 7.
And would that link be through the Sustainability Committee?
I believe so. Yeah, it's a Zoom meeting being hosted through the Sustainability Committee.
Good. Thank you. Okay. Jay, do you have any kind of update from on the planning department activities?
No, I mean, we're pushing through a line of applications that are steadily moving forward, albeit slowly, but as tonight was evidence that some of these are quite complicated projects.
Yep.
Nothing new to add, really.
Okay. Our next meeting is going to be February 2nd, as I see it. Yep. And
You guys
again,
gonna have birthday? You guys gonna have birthday cake for me that night?
is it your birthday?
It is.
Well, the answer is yes, of course.
You can virtually eat it.
Well, we should each
we
bring a
eat so
cupcake.
well at these meetings, right? So, yeah.
We should each bring a cupcake with a little candle and we'll blow it out for Jay. That's
Are you a Pisces, Jay? Are you
Aquarius.
what?
Aquarius.
Oh,
I like long walks on the beach.
well, you like water.
Our next TRC meeting is January 13th. I'm available to attend. Does anybody else wish to attend?
Given the complicating projects that this planning board is sending us, it seems like it'd be a hard job.
Well, it's
Well,
an extension
it's
of the hearing that they had last month.
Yeah.
They're hearing it again because they didn't get enough information to make a determination.
Okay.
And it's the Compassion Center in town that's going to be behind D'Angelo's and across the street from Bagels with a Z.
Okay.
I didn't know about that one. I remember the proposed one where Printing Express used to be, and they talked about one on Cherry Lane, so I didn't know about this one. Does anybody else have an interest in attending the TRC meeting? Okay, then I'll go ahead. I'll do that. Okay, before we adjourn, does anybody have any final comments? Anything at all? Otherwise,
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year indeed. And it is 8:40 and the meeting is now adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Done.
Thank you, Mr. Flanders.
Good night.
Thanks,
you.
Jamie.
Night.
Have a good night,
Jay,
guys.
thank you for your work.
Dave, when you get a chance, can you give me a call as soon as we hang up?
Yeah.
Just touch base with you on something.
Sure. Okay,
Thanks.
will do.